The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma. Matthew Miller, the U.S. State Department spokesperson, stated on November 30th that U.S. suspended the strategic partnership with Georgia. The decision comes after the ruling GD's decision to unilaterally suspend EU accession negotiations. Miller writes, U.S. with EU regrets Georgian Dream's decision to suspend EU accession. We condemn excessive force used against Georgians, rightfully protesting this betrayal of their constitution. EU is a bulwark against Kremlin. Prime Minister Kobakhidze announced the ruling Georgian Dreams Party's decision to reject the accession negotiations with the EU until 2028 and to refuse all budget support from the EU during a briefing on November 28th. According to Kobakhidze, EU-Georgian relations should be reciprocal, and as a proud and self-respecting nation, Georgians categorically would not want to see EU integration as charity. EU integration process for Georgia has already been frozen by Brussels due to the Russian law and Georgian Dreams government lack of commitment to the reforms essential for the accession. Kobakhidze's statement comes after the resolution of the EU Parliament to sanction Georgian Dream high officials and statements from a German ambassador to Georgia, Peter Fischer, aired on BMG yesterday day earlier. PM's statement was followed by demonstrations on Tbilisi's main Rustaveli Avenue. On November 29th, the PM stated that if the EU opens accession negotiation itself, Georgian Dream will have nothing against them, and phrased the decision. On Thursday, the European Parliament adopted a resolution condemning the 26 October parliamentary elections in Georgia, an EU candidate country, for being neither free nor fair, representing yet another manifestation of the continued democratic backsliding of the country, for which the ruling Georgian Dream Party is fully responsible. For the vote, results announced by the country's Central Election Commission do not serve as a reliable representation of the will of the Georgian people. They add, Parliament rejects any recognition of the parliamentary elections as a result, as the international community should too, and MAPs want the elections rerun within a year under thorough international supervision and by an independent election administration. Parliament wants the EU and its member states to impose personal sanctions on the officials and political leaders in Georgia who are responsible for democratic backsliding, violations of electoral laws and standards, and the misuse of the state institutions. This concludes Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze, Mayor of Tbilisi and Secretary General of the ruling Georgian Dream Party, Kaha Kaladze, Speaker of the Georgian Parliament, Shalva Papuashvili, and former Prime Minister and oligarch Bidzina Ivaishvili. Maps also call on the EU to severely restrict formal EU-level contact with the Georgian government and parliament, while stating clearly that Georgia, as a result of recently adopted anti-democratic legislation, including the law on transparency and foreign influence, has already had its EU integration process effectively suspended. Georgia's ambassadors to Bulgaria, Netherlands, and Lithuania have resigned. The same is true for the acting ambassador in Italy. The ambassadors of Georgia in South Korea and the Czech Republic said that they are really committed to the continuous process of European integration. The number of officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who say that the government statement on removing Georgia from the agenda of EU's accession negotiations until 2028 does not correspond to the country's strategic interest exceeds 210. In response to the Georgian Dream, the big businesses of Georgia make statements supporting the irreversible process of European integration and condemn the violence against the citizens. Statements started to spread actively on Saturday, and the process still continues. This was preceded by the statement of 13 business associations in Georgia responding to the decision of the Georgian Dream to suspend the negotiations with the application for joining the EU. Business associations categorically disagree with the ruling party's decision. The joint statement was signed by the Georgia EU Business Association, ICC Georgia, EBA Georgia, Georgian Manufacturers Association, Taxpayers Union of Georgia, Hotel and Restaurant Federation, Georgian Tourism Industry Alliance, German Business Association, US Chamber of Commerce, Georgian Farmers Association, Georgian Distributors Business Association, Restaurateurs Association, and ICDC. Basically everyone except the Georgian Business Association, and if the BAG releases a statement finally, it would probably be better for them to use it for internal consumption. In the meantime, the Lari has reportedly experienced a sharp depreciation, and it is highly likely that this depreciation will continue throughout the current week. The Lari has devalued by 4.10 tetri against the dollar and much more significantly by 8 tetri against the euro, whose value has reached 2.93 Georgian lari. The National Bank of Georgia has restricted those with income in the national currency to take out foreign currency loans up to 500,000 Georgian lari. According to the MBG, this change is aimed at reducing the dollarization of bank loans. The National Bank of Georgia has increased the minimum reserve requirements for the foreign currency deposits by 5% for commercial banks. This decision aims to prevent the increased foreign currency liquidity in banks from turning into excessive foreign currency lending. In October, households and businesses transferred 1 billion lari of deposits into dollars, according to statistics published by the National Bank of Georgia. According to the report, the larization coefficient of deposits decreased by 2% from 51% in September to 49% by the end of October. Commercial banks operating in Georgia generated a net profit of 2.6 billion Georgian lari during the first 10 months of 2024, which is 304 million GEL or 13% more than in the same period of the previous year. More than 250 employees of the National Bank have joined a statement deeming the removal of the EU accession negotiations from the agenda for 4 years as inconsistent with Article 78 of the Constitution. A similar statement is also supported by nearly 200 employees of the Tbilisi City Hall. Over 50 employees of the Ministry of the Defense have also joined the statement with identical content. The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.